Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to the channel again. If you like a modern and light desktop environment, Cinnamon is the desktop for you. And in today's video, we are going to install Arch Linux with the Cinnamon desktop environment. So let's get going.
So we are here now on our ISO installer, and the first thing I want to do is to check if I have an internet connection. So I'll type in IP space A and hit enter. And as you can see here, I have an IP ending with 62 on my Ethernet connection here, and that's because I have an Ethernet cable attached to my computer. If you have Wi-Fi, right now you can type in Wi-Fi-menu, and when you hit enter, you'll see the list of networks. You can select yours, enter the password, and you will have an IP as well. So I'll clean up this command here. And the first thing I want to do is to synchronize the network time protocol. So I'll type in time date CTL set-ntp, and the parameter is true, and hit enter. So there you go. I clean up the terminal by hitting Ctrl L. And now let's type in lsblk, and let's have a look here. We have our disk here, which is called VDA of 100 gigabytes. This is where we want to install Arch Linux. So first we need to partition the disk, and to do this we'll type in fdisk, the partitioning tool, and then the device path, so /dev/VDA, and hit enter. Now this is a UEFI system, so we need to create a GPT label, so we'll type in G and hit enter, and now the GPT label is created. Now we can proceed by creating the first partition. So I want to create here two partitions. One is the EFI partition, and the second partition is going to be our root partition. So let's create the first partition by typing in N for new and hit enter. Accept the partition number 1 as a default here and hit enter. And also accepting the default for the first sector here by hitting enter. And the last sector defines basically the size of the partition. So I want to make the EFI partition around 200 megabytes. So I'll type in plus 200 and capital M and hit enter. Now I want to change also the type of the partition here. So I'll type in T for type, and the selected partition is the number 1. That's fine. So we need to select the EFI system type. So I know it's the number 1, but if you don't know, you can see through the list here by typing in the capital L and hit enter. And as you can see here, the number 1 is the EFI system. This is the one we want. So I'll get out of here by typing in Q and type in number 1 and hit enter. And now it has been changed to EFI system. Now let's create the second partition by typing in N for new and hit enter. I'll accept the defaults for the partition number 2 and hit enter here. I'll accept also the default for the first sector and also for the last sector because I want this partition to take the remainder of the disk, so I'll just hit enter here. And Linux file system, it's fine as a system type. So now we need to write the changes to the disk, and we'll type in W and hit enter. And clean up the terminal and type again lsblk. And you'll see here we have VDA1, which is going to be our EFI partition, 200 megabytes, and VDA2, our root partition, which is around 99 gigabytes. So we partition the disk. Now we can format the partitions. So let's begin with VDA1, our EFI partition. And we'll format this by typing in mkfs for make file system. The file system type has to be a FAT because it's a EFI system. And then we need to tell if it's a 16 or 32 FAT system. So we'll type in dash capital F 32 and then the partition path. So /dev/VDA1 and hit enter. Now we'll repeat the process for VDA2. So we'll type in mkfs. The file system type for the root partition is an ext4, so we'll type in ext4 and then the partition path, so /dev/VDA2 and hit enter. And there you go. I clean up the terminal again and type lsblk. I like to have my partitions in front of me. Now we can proceed by mounting these partitions. And first let's mount VDA2 because this is our installation directory. So to mount this partition, we'll type in mount, then partition path /dev/VDA2, and then our installation directory, which is /mount, and hit enter. Now we need to mount also our VDA1 partition, which is our EFI partition, into the EFI directory, which is not existing yet. And I want to have the EFI directory under the boot directory. You could also mount the VDA1 partition under the boot directory, that's fine, but we need to create that anyway. So to create now the two partitions, we'll type in mkdir for make directory, -p, and then /mount, because this is our installation directory and it's already existing. And then the two partitions we want to create. So /boot /EFI, and hit enter. And now we can mount VDA1 into the EFI directory. So we'll type in mount partition path /dev /VDA1, and then our EFI directory path. So /mount /boot /EFI, and hit enter. And I clean up the terminal and type in again lsbk. And as you can see here, we have VDA1 mounted on boot EFI and VDA2 mounted on the mount directory. So everything looks good. And we can proceed by installing the base packages. So let's do this by typing in pacstrap /mount. Remember, this is our installation directory. And then the packages we want to install. So we need to install the base package. And then I want to install the Linux package, which is going to install the latest Linux kernel. And then I'll install also Linux-firmware and an editor, which I'll need later, in my case, Nano, and hit enter. So it's going to take a moment to download and install the packages, and I'll be back when it's done. So there you go, the packages are installed, and I clean up the terminal. And the next step is to generate the file system table. So to do this, we'll type in gen fstab -U, then /mount, then twice the major len symbol, and then /mount /etc /fstab. So we are generating the file system table based on the U here. This option means it's generated using the UUID of the partitions. And we are going to put this information under the fstab file under the etc directory in our installation directory. And then we'll just hit enter. Now let's have a look at the fstab file to see if everything is configured correctly. So we'll type in cat /mount /etc /fstab and hit enter. And you see here we have VDA2 with its UUID here. We have the mount point. This is a root directory. Its system file here is options and 0 for the dump backup. And the number 1 here means this partition is going to be checked first for errors at boot. Then we have also VDA1, our EFI directory with its UUID, its mount point, its file system type, its options, 0 for the dump backup, and number 2, meaning that this is going to be the second partition checked for errors at boot. So everything looks good, and I can clean up the terminal. And next, let's enter the installation and leave the ISO installer, and we'll do this by typing in arch-root /mount and hit enter. You see also the login prompt changed now. We are in the installation directory and not anymore in the ISO installer. So the first thing I want to do now is to create the swap file for my installation. So I'll type in fallocate -L, and I want to make the swap file 2 GB. So I'll type in 2 GB, and then the name is /swapfile. So we are telling the system to allocate a 2 GB file to the swap file, and then hit enter. Now we need to give read and write permissions to the swap file. So we'll type in chmod 600 /swapfile and hit enter. Now we can make the swap by typing in mkswap /swapfile and hit enter. And now we can activate the swap by typing in swapon /swapfile and hit enter. Now we need to put the swap file in the fstab file. So we have to type in nano /etc /fstab and hit enter. We'll scroll down to the empty space here and we'll type in the name, so /swapfile. The mount point is none. It doesn't have any mount point. File system type, it's swap. For options, we just say default. And 0 for the dump backup and 0 for the file system check, because the swap file doesn't need to be checked. And then Control O and Enter to save the file, and Control X to exit the editor. And I clean up the terminal again, and we can proceed to our localization stuff. So the first thing, I'm going to work on the time zone, and I'll type in ln-sf/user/share/zone info/Europe/Zurich in my case, then a space, and then /etc/local time, and hit enter. So we are linking basically my time zone here to the local time file in the system. And now we can also synchronize the system clock to the hardware clock. So we'll type in hwclock --sys to hc, so system to hardware clock, and hit enter. And now we can edit the locale.gen file. So we'll type in nano /etc/locale.gen and hit enter. So here we are basically looking for the locale that we want to use in our system. I'm looking for the English US one, and I can see it's right here, and we have two of those. And the one we need is the one ending with UTF-8, so we just uncomment here the line by deleting the hashtag. And then hit Ctrl O and enter to save the file and Ctrl X to exit the editor. Now we can generate the locales by typing in locale-gen and hit enter. And we can also edit the locale.conf file by typing in nano/etsy/locale.conf and hit enter. And enter the string lang, all capital letters, and then the locale we selected. So in my case, it's en_us.utf-8. And then Ctrl O and enter to save the file and Ctrl X to exit the editor. So I clean up the terminal. Now we can set the host name for the machine. So we'll type in host name CTL set-host name. And then you basically select the name of the machine. So in my case, I just want to call it Arch and hit enter. And we can confirm this by typing in hostname CTL and hit enter. You see the static host name is Arch, so everything looks good. And I clean up the terminal. Now we need to edit also the hosts file, so we'll type in nano/etsy/hosts and hit enter. Go down to the empty space and typing in the IPv4 address, so it's 127.0.0.1, and then a tab and then localhost. And then on the second line here, the IPv6 address, which is ::1, then twice tab and then localhost again. And in the last line, we'll type in 127.0.1.1 and then a tab and then a host name, so Arch in my case, and then .local domain, then a tab again and then the host name again, so in my case Arch. And then Ctrl O and enter to save the file and Ctrl X to exit the editor. So now it's time to give our root user here a password, so we'll type in passwd and hit enter, and enter the new password and retype it. And now it's time to install our grub bootloader and some networking packages. So to do this, we'll type in pacman-S, so grub, our grub bootloader, and then we have UEFI boot mgr, our UEFI boot manager. We need this because it's a UEFI system. Then some networking packages. So the first one is network manager. Then I want to install also network-manager-applet. And I want to install also wireless_tools and also WPA_supplicant and also dialog and then OS prober in case we want to install another system one day. And then two packages for working with FAT system types. One is mtools and the other one is DOS FS tools. And then two development packages which I'm going to need anywhere sooner or later. One is base-devil and the other one is linux-headers. So make sure the packages are wrote down correctly, and when you're ready, you just hit enter. And you'll accept the default here by hitting enter and proceed the installation with hitting enter. So it's going to take a moment to download the packages, and I'll be back when it's done. So there you know, the packages are now installed, and I clean up the terminal. And now we can proceed by installing the grub bootloader, but first let me type in again lsplk to see my mount points. And we can proceed by installing grub, and we type in grub-install. So the first parameter, we define the target machine. So we'll type in --target equal. This is a 64-bit machine, so we'll type in x86_64-EFI. Then we need to define the EFI directory, so we'll type in --EFI-directory equal. We see the mount point here, so /boot/EFI, so we'll type this in, /boot/EFI. And then the last parameter is to define the bootloader ID, so we'll type in --bootloader-ID equal grub, all capital letters, and hit enter. There you go. No error reported. So now we can go ahead and generate the configuration file for grub. So we'll type in grub-mkconfig-o and then /boot/grub/grub.cfg. So we are telling here to output, this is the O option here, to output the configuration file of grub into the grub CFG file under the grub directory into the boot directory. And then we just hit enter. So there you go. Now, clean up the terminal, and I want to also enable Network Manager so that we have internet when we boot up the machine. So we'll type in systemctl enable Network Manager and hit enter. And I clean up the terminal again, and I want to also create a user, so I'll type in user add -m capital G, then wheel, and then the username, so in my case, my name. So we are telling the system here to create a user with a home directory. This is the M option. And the capital G option is the supplementary group for this user, which is going to be the wheel group. Has to do with the sudo privileges, and we'll configure this in a minute. And then the username, and we just hit enter. Now we give also the username a password. So we'll type in passwd and then the username and hit enter and enter a new password and retype it and hit enter. And now we need to also give this user sudo privileges. So we'll type in editor equal nano vice sudo and hit enter. And we scroll down to the file here until we find the wheel group we talked about before. And we select the first one here on the line, the one which has all equal all, and we just uncomment this line. And then hit Ctrl O and enter to save the file and Ctrl X to exit the editor. So now we can exit the installation and return to the ISO installer. So we'll type in exit. And we also now type in umount-A to unmount all the partitions. And we get an error here, but that's fine. We don't need to worry about that. And now we can reboot our machine. So let's type in reboot and hit enter. And I'm going to move down to my terminal where my machine is. And as you can see here, we have our bootloader installed. So I'm just going to go ahead and start here the system. I'm going to go full screen here. And there you go. So I'll log in now with my username. So I'll type in hermano and the password. And there you go. So the first thing we need to do now is to check if we have an internet connection. So to do this, I'll type in IP space A. And as you can see, I have, again, an IP ending with 63. This is because I have an Ethernet cable attached to my computer. If you have Wi-Fi, you can type in now nmtui and hit enter. And go down to activate a connection. And here you'll see a list of networks. You can select yours, enter the password, and you have an IP as well. And let me log out here. And I'll clean up the terminal. So the next step is for you optional, guys. I want to install OpenSSH so that I can go back to my big terminal. And so I'll type in sudo pacman-s OpenSSH and hit enter my password and install the packages. And then I'll activate SSH by typing in sudo system control start sshd and hit enter. There you go. Now I'll check my IP here. And I'll go back to my big terminal here and I clean this up and type in SSH, then my username at 192.168.122.63. Accept the fingerprint and enter my password. And now I'm logged into my system. So let's proceed by installing the graphics driver. And so I'm going to type in sudo pacman-s and then the package. So I need to install a special package here because I'm installing on a virtual machine. So I'll go ahead and type this in xf86-video-qxl. I'll give you the packages for Intel, AMD, NVIDIA in a second. And enter my password here and proceed with the installation. There you go. Now, if you have an Intel card, because we are going to install the Cinnamon desktop environment, it's recommended not to install the xf86 video Intel package because it's going to make the system freeze from time to time. So by not installing any specific package for Intel cards, the system is going to use the mode setting driver, which is going to work fine under Cinnamon. So if you have an Intel card, you can skip basically this step. If you have an AMD card, you can replace QXL here with AMD GPU. And if you have an NVIDIA card, you can go ahead and replace the whole thing with NVIDIA and also NVIDIA-utils. And go ahead with installation and you have your graphic drivers. So let me clean this up. And the next step is to install the display server. So we want to basically install Xorg. So to do this, we'll type in sudo pacman-s xorg and hit enter. Accept the installation by hitting enter and proceed with installation by hitting enter again. It's going to take a second here to download and install, should it take too long. There you go. So I'll clean up the terminal. So the next step is to install the display manager. So afterwards, we are going to install Cinnamon. And as a display manager, I'm going to choose LightDM. And we need to install 3 packages for this. So I'll type in sudo pacman-s. The first one is LightDM. This is the display manager. The second one is at greeter, which LightDM needs in order to boot up. So we'll type in lightdm-gtk-greeter. This is the standard greeter that LightDM looks for when it starts up. And the third package is LightDM gtk-greeter-settings, which is going to provide us with a UI where we can configure our display manager, like desktop pictures and so on. So make sure that the packages are brought down correctly and then hit enter and accept the installation by hitting enter. And there you go, the packages are installed. So I'll clean up the terminal. And next we can proceed by installing the Cinnamon desktop environment. So for that we need a few packages, and we'll type in sudo pacman-s. So the first one is Cinnamon, which is the base package. And then I recommend also to install other packages to have a more complete experience. So the first one is system-config-printer to have the printer options in the settings. Then I also recommend to install the GNOME-keyring to be able to save the Wi-Fi passwords in your system, and also the Blueberry package to be able to have Bluetooth in your system. And I'd install also the CUPS printing system if you want your printers to work. And last but not least, also one terminal, as Cinnamon doesn't come with any, so we'll type in GNOME-terminal, and then we hit enter, and we accept the installation by hitting enter. And the system is going to now download and install the packages, and I'll be back when it's done. There you go, the packages are installed. Let me clean up the terminal. We have to activate some things before we can reboot the machine. So the first one is to enable the display manager, otherwise we won't be able to go graphical. So we'll type in sudo systemctl enable lightdm.service and hit enter. Next, we need to also enable our CUPS printing system, otherwise we won't be able to add any printer. So we'll type in sudo systemctl enable org.cups.cupsd.service and hit enter. And last but not least, we also need to activate the Bluetooth. So we'll type in sudo systemctl enable Bluetooth and hit enter. There you go, the system is now ready. So I need to first exit the shell here. So I'll type in exit and I'll go back to my main terminal. And let me go full screen here and we'll type in now reboot. And if everything went well, we will be greeted by LightDM first. So this is our grab bootloader. We'll just hit the installation here. And this is our LightDM. So I'll just enter my password here and hit enter. So I go under the settings here and under hardware, I go to my display, select my resolution here and click apply. There you go. And now under settings, I can bump this up to the high DPI section, to the high DPI resolution, and now everything looks good. There you go. So we have now Cinnamon installed. Let's have a look if everything works properly. So we have our audio here is working fine. You just have to unmute it. We have our GNOME terminal here, which is also working fine. Yeah, we can go under the settings here and have a look also, for example, at the themes here. We can add or remove themes or go to the settings here to show some extra options. For example, if we want to add some themes in Cinnamon, we can go under add remove here. I could, for example, install this Adaptanocto by typing the arrow here, and now it's installed. And we can go back here to the desktop, select the option here, and maybe also for the Windows borders, we can use the same theme. And also for the controls here. There you go. Go back to the settings. And if we scroll down to the administration section here, we have also our login window option. Let's enter the password here, hit enter. So here we could define basically the theme of our greeter, also the icons, the fonts, pictures, colors, and so on. Everything is here. And the same thing goes for the panel, which is on the top normally of LightDM, the window position, if you want to have it on the left or on the right, and some other options as well. So everything seems to be looking fine.
And so this is how to install Arch Linux with the Cinnamon desktop environment. I hope you liked the video, guys. If you did, please hit the like button below and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Subs really helps us out, guys. And also let me know what's your favorite desktop environment. I thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.